You asked me, I'm going to try to imitate your accent. So how did you feel about your delivery, Patricia? Which took me off guard.
Is that really what you think I sound like?
That's what you sound like to me. That's what you sounded like to me.
Okay,
so
fine.
So you asked that question, which took me by surprise, because you're supposed to tell me the feedback. Why are you asking me a question? But anyhow. Hello, Vaibhav. Welcome.
Hi, Patricia. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
I'm so excited to have you on the Break Time with Patty show. This is long overdue, Vaibhav. Long overdue.
It is. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for agreeing to hanging out with me. Dear friend at home, let me tell you who Vaibhav Vadera is. There are two types of people in the world. There are those that dream about the life that they could live, and there are those that live the life they dream. Vaibhav wants you to be the latter. He is an international coach, speaker, and mentor, also known as the Courage Coach. And Vaibhav wants to turn your dreams into a reality and live with courage. So Vaibhav Vadera is a speaker I came across on Facebook in October 2021, right, Vaibhav?
Yeah.
We connected, started exchanging. He came to my Toastmasters club a few times, actually. He invited me to his club, and he took the time to evaluate and provide amazing feedback on a few of my speeches that I was more than happy to incorporate to make them more memorable. And one last thing, in November 2021, Vaibhav was actually the first person who told me that I should invite guests on my YouTube channel to get their top tips, and that way I wouldn't have to create content all the time, and it'll be more varied. And at first I remember thinking, oh yeah, I have so much content, I'm good, don't worry. And I sort of tossed the idea on the side. I said, eventually I'll do it, but right now I have too much going on. And that was until Urmi Hussein accelerated the process, but I digress. Vaibhav and I have been connecting ever since, and he's so phenomenal that I wanted you to meet him. Woo! All right, let's get started.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to me as well, because I wouldn't be here if you didn't listen to my idea.
Exactly. No, thank you. So, all right, I've talked enough. Vaibhav, can you tell us a little bit about young Vaibhav as a boy, a teenager, and a pre-Toastmasters adult? What was it like to be him?
Awkward is the short answer. Well, when I was in school, I kind of got through school on personality, because I had good people skills and I got along with people liked me, but I never actually had friends. So my social circle changed every year. One year I'd hang out with the cool kids. Next year I'd hang out with the goth kids. When I hung out with the goth kids, I dyed my hair red, like you do. And then I hung out with a different group. Then I hung out with a different group. I never actually had my own friends. I was good at talking to people, and that helped me to build those friendships. But it was awkward growing up. I was an awkward student, but I was also a good student. So I got away with a lot of stuff. The teachers would always say, if any of my friends got in trouble, even if they've seen me do it, they will just brush it off because he's actually a good student. We'll let this one slide. So I was awkward, but I also got away with a lot. And so I avoided trouble in that sense.
Yes, that resonates so much with me. Awkward was it. I was not cool at all. Like when there would be a selection during when we would do team sports, for example, and then I was always the last kid, one of the last kids. That's how awkward I was. People did not want me on their team. So I totally understand what you're saying. And okay.
How about now? Are you still the last to be picked?
No, I'm pretty cool now. People know I'm very competitive now, so I like to win and I love to uplift people. So yes, I get picked right away. Usually I'm the picker too. I like to surround myself with really good people, or just people that just to have a good time. I like to have a good time. So
good.
So are you cool now? Are you a cool kid?
I think so.
You look pretty cool. Your hair looks cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So on your website, which I would like to encourage you to go check out, havemorecourage.com, you ask the question, are you living or are you existing? Can you expand on this for the benefit of our friend right now, please?
I think to answer that question, you really have to understand what is life? What is the meaning of life? To me, I don't want to live a life of regrets. I don't want people to live a life of regrets. And I read this report from a nurse, and she found that the majority of dying patients she saw, their biggest regret was not living for themselves, spending their life doing things for other people, not doing things for themselves. And that didn't sit right with me, because for me, I think you only get this one life. And you know as well as I do that life is something that can end just like that. Therefore, it's something that we should embrace. We shouldn't run away from life. And I see so many people who are just saying, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. They're the people who are just existing in this world, not really living life. And for me, I don't want to be someone who doesn't just exist in this world. I want to be someone who lives life, really embraces life with all of its beauty and its challenges. And that's what I want for other people as well, just to really enjoy every moment, so that if the unfortunate was to happen tomorrow, there's no regrets.
Oh, yes. I have to applaud. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about this message. Actually, you're talking about Bronnie Ware. She was a palliative care nurse who interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of patients, right? Yeah. When they were in their dying bed. I actually did a video called the 10 tips of 10 tips to live a life with no regrets. So it's exactly what you're talking about. And yes, I totally agree with you. And that's the problem. People, they feel often that it's just too late. There's just no point. And I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that 10 or 20 years ago, but those days are gone. You cannot go back in time. But what you can do is change from today, change your mindset from today until you make it to your dying bed, basically. So absolutely. I love that saying. So that's why I want to talk about that with you. And which actually makes me think of that. You know, they made these kind of experiments with rats back in the 1950s in Harvard, at Harvard University. And they just placed some lab rat into a tank in the complete darkness. And that rat swam for, I believe it was 3 minutes, and then they let themselves drown, okay? And then they did the same experiment with another lab rat, same conditions, same tank, but this time there was a ray of of light a bit further that the rat could look at. That rat swam for like 3 days, if I recall correctly, because I think the fact that actually they made a few different experiments, some of them like they were taken out for a few minutes and then put back, but whenever they were given any form of hope, that's when they kept swimming for days, like days. We're talking about a rat here. They're extremely intelligent creatures, but imagine a human like that's in that darkness. If you could just find one thing, just one thing, like whatever it is people believe in, or whether it's just like looking forward to a trip or having some kind of faith in something greater than yourself or anything, something, you know, then you just hold on to that and you can keep swimming for as long as it's necessary to get out of that tank. So
yeah, and it's unfortunate that many people struggle to find that as well.
So we have to actively look for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you be able to give some advice, or what advice would you like to give to someone who is sick and tired of being tired, or sick and tired of being sick and tired, who has been sticking around just so that they don't hurt people that they love, but they don't think that they can endure their life or their circumstances for much longer? What would it be?
Get help. Speak to a professional. Speak to a doctor. Speak to friends. The reality is that the one thing I've learned is there are people who love and care for me, even if I don't always love and care for me, and there are people who want to help. And if getting help means just calling up a friend and having a talk, then that's what you need. That's all you need to do. Or get some professional help. Speak to a therapist, or whatever it is. Get help in whatever form that is.
Yes. And often people, when they feel like they're alone though, so they don't feel like there is, or sometimes you don't even, because everything is available on Google, okay, or whatever search engine that you use. But yes, seek help, but then they don't know when to, they don't know, but there are resources everywhere, right? So it's just a question of looking, and remember that you're not alone. So
absolutely.
I love that. And okay. You're just taking me to my next question. You're a very busy man, Vaibhav. You're a courage coach who provides coaching, mentoring, and accountability to leaders who want to live fearlessly and complete their bucket list. Sometimes you will even join them on their adventures. How do you stay grounded and balanced? And like, in other words, how do you keep your mental sanity through it all?
When you ask yourself with everything, why are you doing what you're doing? And going back to who you are, what you want to achieve, what legacy you want to leave on this world, even if it's a little legacy, it always helps. So when I have days where I'm procrastinating and putting things off, I have to ask myself, well, why am I doing this in the first place? And that always helps me come back to, okay, well, so many people can benefit from me helping them. People will miss out. If I don't serve people, they won't be able to help themselves, and they'll be in that same situation that I was in, which I don't want.
Yes. Oh, I love this so much. That's also the reason I found my life purpose in spring 2020, actually, when it became very clear I had to help certain women in need, and everything made sense. Everything followed afterwards. That's why I joined Toastmasters. That's why I started taking some courses and following a whole path. And actually, which leads me to my next question. I want to ask you, what was the turning point that made you decide to go visit a Toastmasters club for the first time?
This is a funny story. When my sister got married, she asked me to make a speech at her wedding, and I've not been afraid of public speaking. I've always been okay with public speaking, but I always found it difficult to be myself. When I first started, especially back in school at university, I would present like this. Oh my God, everyone's looking at me. I should carry on. I was very robotic, and I found it very hard to be myself. At my sister's wedding, she asked me to make a speech. I was like, yeah, great. But I wanted this to be great because it was my gift to my sister, was to give her a great speech. So I did what any normal person would do. I watched a TED talk. I emailed the woman who's given the TED talk. The TED talk was on public speaking. I said, hey, I need to make a speech at my sister's wedding. Can you help me? And she said, what's your budget? I told her my budget, and she said, no, I can't help you, but my friend can help you. Yeah. Her friend was someone who works in the media industry. She used to be a producer on a couple of the TV shows, but her job was also to train newsreaders. So she trains newsreaders to deliver the news in the right way. Obviously, if there was a big disaster in the world and the news reporter was very energetic and happy, it doesn't convey the message. So she trains newsreaders to speak in the right tone. Yeah. And she gave me some coaching. She helped me write and practice a speech. Then it came to the day of delivering the speech at my sister's wedding, and it was great. When I gave that speech, people came up to me and said that was one of the best speeches I've ever heard. And you are so good. And I thought, you know what? I like this feeling. I like people telling me how great I am. So I thought, how can I become better and speak more often? Because I've realized I'm very good at this. Is what I'm very good at, and this is something I'm very passionate about. So then I found a Toastmasters club local to me. This was in December 2018 at Leicester Leaders Club. So I joined Leicester Leaders Club. The following week, I took on my first role, which was a table topic master. I went straight in for a bigger role, and then I gave my first speech 2 weeks afterwards. And since then, it's just been a great journey where I get to speak everywhere. And I'll admit, I do like being the center of attention. I love having an audience. And I know that this is one thing I really enjoy.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, yes. First of all, I'd like to commend you. First of all, you're a very good brother. You're a very nice brother, wanting to please your sister. I hope my brother's listening to this, so you can apply some of your tips. Second of all, you knew that you had a weakness and you decided to go out of it to get help. Say, I can't do it. I don't feel capable. I need help. Let me go to the best. I love that attitude. Third of all, you were prepared to invest. You had a budget for it. You understand? So you did a lot of great things. And then you did the work, and then you were mesmerizing. I've seen you speak many times, and it's always, you're a phenomenal speaker.
And it's interesting you say that, because I saw this quote from Chris Akabusi, who is a Great Britain Olympic track runner. And he has this, he said one time, don't look up to people, look into people. And if you find someone who's doing what you are doing or what you want to be doing, instead of looking up to them, look at what they are doing, look into them and do what they are doing, because it's called modeling excellence. Find someone, if the most successful people are doing this, and this, you should be doing this, and this, and just see what happens with your life if you do that.
Wow. Yes, 100%. Because we're all humans. I believe we're all flawed humans walking this earth, okay? That's what I think. And some people are making the efforts to become great, and some people are perfectly fine with just not making the effort to get there. Like they just stay where they are and they're fine with it. And it's a life choice, right? But I love that, because it's true. And it's so interesting when you reach out to people, amazing things happen. And that goes back to something that Ed Tate said in one of my interviews. He said, don't you say no before they say no. Never tap out, never take yourself out of the game. And I love that, because often we say, oh no, I'm not going to ask the TED talker, they're too busy for me. I'm not going to ask world champion public speaking to come speak on my show. Like we're just afraid even for the sales. Like some people, they really struggle with like being successful in their business because they don't want to put themselves out there because they're afraid of rejection. So definitely, I agree with that quote you just shared with us.
And you'll find that, no, sorry, let me rephrase that. I have found that people who are very successful know that they can't do it alone.
Yes.
And therefore they're not afraid to get help wherever they need to. Just, the example I always give is Tiger Woods is great at what he does, but he also has a coach. Yes. He still, despite being a great golfer from a very young age, he still has he still has a coach to help him with his golf, and also help him with, he has people to help him with other aspects of his life as well.
It's funny you mentioned Tiger Woods. I just started watching that show on, he has a movie actually of his life when he started. It's a fascinating story actually. So it amazes me when you have these people who are excellent, the best in their fields, it always starts young very often. Not all the time, but often they start young, and so much hard work goes into it. And you're right, they were always coached. They were never alone. They were always part of a team. They have a whole team backing them up, helping them.
Yeah. And it's well, having said that, there's no such thing as you're never too young to start anything.
That's correct. Yes.
So people say I'm too old for this. No, that's rubbish. You're not too old.
That's correct. I'm starting doing whatever I'm doing at age 40. I was just talking about the Tiger situation. There was also Serena Williams. I'm thinking about these, but you're right. Thank you for adding that, Vaibhav. Yes, it doesn't matter if you're 70 years old going back to school, you can absolutely do it.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, so actually speaking of coaching and mentoring, you're quite an amazing coach, and I can say this because you have coached me. As I mentioned in the introduction, you took time out of your busy schedule to provide feedback on a few of my speeches. Just thinking very quickly, there was the What's Wrong With You, a near-death experience, and Blind Date with Patty. But let me just stay with the Blind Date with Patty, because it's a really good story. It's a funny story. So I was extremely uninspired about the speech I had to deliver, because I'm following the presentation mastery pathway. And it's about understanding communication styles. I was bored to death. I kept stretching it out, and I had already started my YouTube channel, and I want to go through my pathway. I'm documenting it on my YouTube channel. That's the whole point why I started this, but I was just bored. So then I met you, And then you offered to listen. You said, oh, why don't you deliver this speech to me? I go, oh, sure. You sure? You have time for this? He goes, yes, I have plenty of time to help people. I go, all right. So then I got all ready, got all my visual aids ready, and I delivered the speech to you. And then I had dropped it at that moment. And then at the end, I go, okay, I'm done. So I said, okay, I'm ready for your feedback. Because in Toastmasters, we're very big at giving feedback. And then you asked me, I'm going to try to imitate your accent. So how did you feel about your delivery, Patricia? Which took me off guard.
Is that really what you think I sound like?
That's what you sound like to me. That's what you sounded like to me.
Okay,
so fine. So you asked that question, which took me by surprise, because you're supposed to tell me the feedback. Why are you asking me a question? But anyhow, then I sat with I started thinking, I figured I have to answer something to your question. And then I go, it bored me to death. I think that's something like that I told you. And then you said this, I quote, because I wrote it down. You said, it showed. When you were bored, I was bored. And when you were excited, I was excited. And I go, oh. And then you proposed the idea of creating a date show based on some popular British show, Blind Date. And then was born the Blind Date with Patty speech, which is the funnest project I have ever done in my life. Thank you so much for making, and I feel like any boring project I'll ever have to do, this is what I'll do. I'll just try to switch it up and try to have fun with it. Anyhow, if our viewer right now is bored to death with either a project, a speech, a sale transaction, anything, what would you like to tell them to encourage them to not be bored to death?
I think sometimes there are things that people have to do for their jobs which are boring, and you kind of have to do it anyway. For me, it's doing all my admin paperwork. I hate doing all of my admin paperwork, and what I do is I force myself to do it, because if I don't do my admin paperwork, I will have to do it at some point, or someone else will. And I think that applies with everything. If there's something you find yourself that you're not wanting to do, or you don't want to because of you're bored or it's repetitive, you have to remember that the results or the life you want is on the other side of that. And again, if you look back at modeling excellence of successful people, Tiger Woods probably didn't enjoy hitting the ball 500 times a day. But by doing that, he's putting it in his memory. And he knows that if he does this, it'll help him with his swing. So the results and the life you want are usually on the other side of the stuff you don't want to do.
Yes.
And if you've done one way around this is, if you really want to do something, let's just take an example of getting fitter. But if you just say, okay, I want to get fitter and do nothing about it, you're most likely not going to hit that goal. If you said to a friend, I want to get fitter by running every day by the end of February, and I want you to check on me, you're going to do that. Because if you say you're going to do something, put a deadline on it, and have someone hold you accountable, you're definitely not, I don't want to say definitely, but you're much more likely to do it, because you're going to look like an idiot in front of people you've said, hey, can you to make sure you check on me to do this. So if you want to really do something, set a goal, tell someone what you want to do by when, and get them to hold you accountable. And even if you don't want to do it, most people don't want to look like an idiot. So think, okay, well, I've told them I've done it, I'm going to do this, I might as well do it. Yeah. As for what you mentioned before, sometimes you really do have to change the language and find a way to enjoy something. And that if you change your language, if it's, oh, I really hate doing this, is repetitive, if you can find a way to get excited about it. And I appreciate it's not easy, because I'm the worst at this. I get bored so easily. I only want to do the fun things. I have to always go back to why, because sometimes you have to do the boring stuff that you don't want to do. And I try and make it fun for me, because if I'm having fun, then it's going to be more enjoyable. Yes.
Like life is short. Let's make it fun, right? And Absolutely.
Sorry, just to add to that as well, based on just going back to what you said, when you're giving a speech as a speaker, you're in charge. And this is a tip that I always give to people. You're in charge of what the audience is going to do, think, and feel. If I was talking like this, the audience are going to see that I'm nervous, and they're going to get nervous watching me. But if I'm very excited and animated, it's very easy to capture the attention. So it's a good tip for speakers, actually. If you want to, you're in charge of how the audience feels. What you feel, they will feel. And that's how you can flip it around to keep an audience's attention.
Yes. I mean, I'm not such a good actress that I can pretend to be excited about something that I'm not excited about. So I have to actually fool myself into thinking that not either fool myself or actually become excited. Like I went really wild with my with my speech. So anyhow, just to talk about what you were talking about, the admin work, me, it's folding my laundry. I'm always so busy that I just end up piling up a bunch of loads, and I hate folding my laundry. I strongly dislike it, to use nice words. And I always choose myself. I make it like a date night with myself. Oh, it's laundry day. And then I'm finding myself a really cool movie to watch, like for 2 hours. So then I have time to fold all my stuff. So I turn that into a fun moment with myself. So for example, and the book, oh God, this book changed my life. That's like the reason why I joined Toastmasters. The Power of Self-Discipline, No Excuses.
Yep.
Oh, in there, I'll just quote one thing that he said, Brian Tracy, is discipline is doing the things that you don't want to do when you need to do them, whether you want to do them or not.
Absolutely.
That's the difference between being ordinary and being extraordinary, in my opinion.
Yep. And again, if you look at what successful people do, they have the discipline because they know that having the discipline, doing all the little things, that's what's going to give them the edge for doing all the big things.
Exactly. And often they're doing the things that other people don't want to do. And that's also the reason why they are successful, because people need them. People go to them. But anyhow, in their businesses. And okay, so as I just mentioned, I'm doing the presentation mastery. You just completed your first pathway, innovation planning. I have a few questions. So can you tell us, first of all, what a pathway is briefly, if you don't mind?
I don't even know the answer to how to answer that question. So pathways is so when someone joins Toastmasters, they can choose a pathway, and what a pathway does, it just allows you to pick different modules so that you can kind of tailor the experience to what your needs are. So there's a pathway for people who just want to become better at presentation mastery, but there's also a pathway for people who are in more senior positions. For example, I think it's dynamic leadership. And as the modules go on, you actually have a project to do that allows you to utilize all the leadership skills that you would need in whatever work environment.
Okay, that's a very good explanation. Yes, that's exactly why I chose a presentation mastery. And so just very briefly, so I know a pathway will have a different impact on every participant, right? Because we're all extracting different things and we're all at Toastmasters for different reasons. But can you share with us what you enjoyed the most during your process?
Well, there's a module on dealing with a difficult audience. And what that requires is the Vice President of Education will pick 3 or 4 people who will have a role to interrupt the speech, or they'll be difficult in some way. They can interrupt you, they can be confrontational, they can be very nonchalant and just not paying attention, different roles that they have. When I was doing this speech, we had about 25 members virtually, and 7 of them were guests. There's only supposed to be 4 interruptions during the speech. The speech has to be 20 minutes long, and there's supposed to be 4 interruptions. For some reason, this became a speech where everyone interrupted. Everyone, the guests were interrupted. One of the guests said, "Alexa, play this music." One was talking about something else. So not only did we have people who were supposed to be disruptive, but that everyone just decided to interrupt and challenge
on purpose?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I thought, is it boring what you're saying that they want to ask Alexa to mute?
No, because the purpose of the speech was to deal with a difficult audience. Only 4 people were supposed to be difficult, but
that the guests came into it. That's what's crazy.
And what's interesting is whenever this particular module is done in person, the guests were all quiet and they're not getting involved, and only the 4 people that are supposed to be involved get involved. But somehow everyone decided to be involved. And it was very challenging because I wanted to tell people just to shut up and stop interrupting me, but I wouldn't be serving the purpose. So I had to be calm and had to deal with every single little thing that came up. So that was a fun speech. My club, Leicester Leaders, last year we had a 10-year anniversary, and we were celebrating over Zoom. We had one very fun thing that we had because it was a 10-year anniversary. We thought, let's make the meeting different. So everyone dressed up. We did, for the first hour, we just had like a little debating session. But then in the second hour, we played our own version of, you ever watched the show Lip Sync Battle?
Oh, that's old.
Yeah. So we did our own version. So it was very fun to have we had just members lip syncing to songs.
Okay.
And I think those 2 are definitely standout memories, just about how much fun that you can actually have at Toastmasters as well.
Oh, yes. Yes, and my club were pretty good. Our VP of Education, she's very wild kid. And we have like debates on really sensitive topics. And we have Halloween nights where we have to say like scary stories, scary tales, and it's a lot of fun. We have a whole lot of fun at the Toastmasters. All right. So what is your best advice that you would give to anyone who has a fear of public speaking?
Okay, so the best advice I have is to do something that we do on a daily basis: breathe, right? And this advice was given to me, and you can use it anywhere. Anytime you feel nervous, do what I'm just about to show you, and you'll calm your body down and you'll be ready. It's called box breathing. Some of you might be familiar with box breathing, but Patricia, let's do it right now.
Yes, ready.
Okay, so take a deep breath for 4 seconds. Okay. 1, take a deep breath.
Oh yeah.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. 1 for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. In for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. I know you've only done that twice, but how do you feel?
I feel so relaxed. I love this.
It's called box breathing because it's a box. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Anytime you're ever nervous or you're in a situation where you feel a lot of anxiety coming on, just breathe. And the thing is, you can do this whilst you're at work. It's breathing. No one's going to notice. You're not going to look like an idiot. You can do it in your car. You can do it wherever you're doing. So before I start a speech, that's what I do, because I still get nervous. I've been a Toastmaster for 3 years. Yes. I still get nervous. And I think just breathing allows me to be grounded. You're getting oxygen into your body. You can be relaxed. And then I start. The other tip I have is for someone who's maybe a little bit more experienced, or someone who's maybe been a member for a couple of years. One thing I always say to people is memorize your speech, but only 80%. So that you know what you're going to say roughly, but not the full word for word speech. When it comes to delivering it, speak from the heart. If you memorize the speech 100%, you're not speaking from the heart. Memorize it from 80%, speak from the heart, and that 20% allows for a bit of spontaneity, which is always more fun. It's more interesting for you. But memorize it 80% and then speak from the heart. That's been the best advice I've received. It's the best advice that I give to people because it makes you more authentic, and that little bit of spontaneity can allow you to add something. I see speakers who memorize everything word for word, and I feel like it's not as effective. But if it's memorized 80%, then and then they're speaking from the heart. It's easier for me to buy into them. And also, so I think the main thing is just, as long as you know what you're going to say, that's fine. You know your points, you know your transition into the next point, you know the anecdotes, but don't over memorize, because that speaking from the heart bit is very important in terms of being authentic and being relatable. That way, if you do mess up a line, that's fine. You can be okay, but you can also be spontaneous and add something different, which might be better.
Very good tips. In my case, though, I struggle with the word memorizing, okay? Because the thing is, when I panic or when I go into when I'm really, really nervous, I trip on a word, or I say, anyway, I was told, my club, the tip I received from one of my, she was a VP of public relation at the time, and she told me to internalize the speech, not memorizing, because maybe it works for you, which is great, because that you received that tip. And well, you know what, our brains all work differently. So maybe this is fantastic for you. But me, the moment I memorize things, that's the moment when I will blank out and panic, and then it will derail my entire speech. So I have a certain process. It's a pretty long one, but one thing I prepare myself with bullets, and I also put images, you know. So, okay, I'm talking about this right now. I'm going to put, I don't know, I'm slipping in the street. I'm going to put like a road, for example, with somebody on the floor. So then I just memorize, I guess, not memorize, but I internalize the images basically. And that's how I remember what to say. So then I'm not stuck on words, but I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm at the beginning of my pathway, right? So I have a lot to work to do. But the moment I memorize, and this has been my problem from the beginning, is I memorize and then I sort of end up reading in front of the camera. So it's a journey, as I call it.
I admit, not necessarily memorize, but just knowing what you're going to say. Okay, point 1 is this, point 2 is this, point 3 is this, point 4 is this, but not word for word, knowing exactly what word you're saying when, because I feel that takes away a lot of the naturalness out of it.
Yes.
When it's completely word for word spoken. Whereas if it's done more off the cuff, I find that to be more natural, and that's more, for me, that's more interesting, and it makes that person more relatable, makes them more genuine.
Yes. Oh yeah, the moment somebody's reciting, forget it. You could tell. Like, if you're going to read this to me, I can read it myself, basically. But then when they're nervous, this is the best, you know, if this is what it takes for them to gain the confidence to get to being a memorable speaker, okay, but it's not something that you can do forever necessarily, in my opinion. But
and if you find yourself getting nervous or you're going to fluff up your words, remember, take a breath.
Yes.
Instead of using filler words, take a breath, give a pause, because pausing is also very important.
Oh, I struggle so much. Yes. Listen to him. Pausing and filler words are one of the huge issues I'm dealing with right now. And I'm hoping one day I'll be rid of them altogether. Or I'll be able to pause and then not use filler words at all, because it changes everything with the delivery.
If you paused, you will use filler words less.
Yes.
So don't worry about the filler words. If you just paused, they're much less likely to appear.
Yes, I just get all worked up and I want to, I want to get passionate about what I'm talking about, and then I forget to pause and I speak fast. So work in progress. I'm getting there. I know a lot of people don't like that question. I know I used to hate that question in interviews. What's the next step? Where do you see yourself in so many years? So my question to you is that dreaded question. What is the next step for Vaibhav Vadera?
So I have my own podcast coming out where I talk to some awesome people who've done courageous things in their life and talk about what was going through their head at the time. So that's going to be coming out this year. And I think it's just more, just scaling up the business, more clients, more adventures for me as well, speaking wherever I can, and just continue what I'm doing, really.
Yes. And I'll be cheering you on while you're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if someone from the audience would like to reach out to you, what is the best way?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Vaibhav Vadera, and you can check out my website, havemorecourage.com.
Awesome. Viv, I remember a few months ago, we had this discussion. You have this theory about how we should say yes all the time or most of the time. And we had this little banter about this. Can you tell me how you feel about saying yes versus saying no to opportunities that present themselves?
So, well, that's the thing, right? Say if there's an opportunity, say yes to it. It's not my theory. Have you seen the film Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
Oh, yes. That was the funniest thing.
It's actually based on a book. And in the book, it's a book by a man called Danny Wallace. He's not enjoying his life. And a stranger on a bus says to him, you need to say yes more. So he decides to say yes to everything. And his life completely changes. So if someone invites him up, he says yes. Someone asks him to do something that he's afraid to do, he'll say yes. Any opportunity to say yes, he'd say yes. And I felt so inspired by that because a lot of times people say no and you don't know. And that, okay, no is great, but no is also just closing the door. Whereas when you say yes to something, you are opening the door. If you see someone who you like and you say yes to the idea of talking to them, you don't know, that could be your best friend or a lover, for example. Or, someone comes up to you with an opportunity to say, hey, Patty, do you want to come out for some drinks? You say no. You're either going to be at home or you could go out and have a great time with friends. I think when you say yes, you're just actually saying yes to life, really. And you're allowing more opportunities to come because there's something there. You say yes to it, something happens. If it's not the result, if you don't get the result you want, fine. But if you hadn't said yes, you wouldn't have had that experience. You wouldn't have had that opportunity to learn and grow.
Yes. Now the whole discussion
there you go. You're saying it already.
The arguments are coming back up. They're bubbling in. Yes, I hear what you're saying, Vaibhav. Okay. Somebody that wants to switch it up or spice up their life, absolutely say yes to everything. My problem with this is I don't have much time. Okay. My time is very limited, very precious. And I've been applying more the more you say no to the things that are not aligned with your why that you were talking about at the beginning. So if you don't say no to certain things, then you're saying yes to them, but then you're saying no to yourself and your dreams and where you're trying to go. So like I'm a Toastmasters, right? And I'm the VP of Public Relations in my club. I'm very solicited. Different people come to my club. And there's so many amazing clubs. Like we have thousands of clubs, is it not tens of thousands of clubs worldwide, right? Mm-hmm. So I can't, if I say no to everything that presents itself, I will have no time to speak to you, to have an interview with you. I would have no time to read my books, to connect with my daughter, hang out, help my family, like work out, meditate, paint, take care of my plants. So for me, saying no to certain things, even if they sound very exciting, I have to be selective. Otherwise, I'll never get anything done, Vaibhav. Please, let's continue with our banter here. What do you have to say to this?
Absolutely. You need to know what's true for you, and you need to know your own boundaries 100%. But what I'll say to you is, okay, how would your life be different if you hadn't come to Toastmasters?
Oh, God. I would not be in a good place right now.
You said yes to going to Toastmasters.
Yes. A
place where, if you realistically, I've said to people, I go to Toastmasters, I do public speaking every week and people give me feedback. They're like, why? What's wrong with you? Some people, I've had meetings where people have left mid-meeting because they were scared. You said yes to something that scared you and look at the benefit you got from it. If you said no to going to Toastmasters, your life might be quite different. So sometimes just saying yes, it's not just saying yes to every social invite, it's saying yes to new things and saying yes to uncertainty. If there's something that might scare you, yeah, okay, no. The reality is, okay, you didn't go to Toastmasters, you'd be at home. We might not have this conversation. But the fact that you did allowed you to meet world champion speakers, allowed you to meet some more interesting people. And now you have a podcast like we have right now. So it's not just saying yes to everything, but it's saying yes to opportunities and things that you wouldn't usually do.
Yes, I'm with you there.
Good job.
This book, actually, I was at a women conference that talked to me that where I learned about Toastmasters for the first time. Find your own voice. It was an amazing speaker, Dr. Anita Phillips. And there was a chapter in this book, Learn to Speak on Your Feet. And that's what made me join a club such as Toastmasters. So I had time to read this book because I said no to other opportunities. And I said yes to what the book was proposing because it was part of my purpose, my why. I was trying to get to women and help them, right? So I said yes to something that was serving my purpose and my path. You understand what I'm trying to say? But then, so we're saying the same thing essentially, Vaibhav. I think that's what we came to the same conclusion last time. Yeah, we don't say yes to everything. If somebody tells you, can you want to sniff a line of Coke, you're not going to say yes to that because it doesn't serve you, right? Okay, so at least, we understand each other.
But if someone said, hey, I'm going for drinks with some work colleagues and there's a very nice, handsome man there, maybe you might like him. Maybe you said yes and maybe you guys get along, then, different story. Yes. And the thing is, if you say yes and you don't get the result you want, it's not the end of the world. It's a very interesting book just on how to open your perspective. So I definitely recommend it. It's called Yes Man. And the film's okay.
The movie was hilarious. What are you talking about? But okay. Yeah, of course, the books are always better, Vaibhav. So yes, we talked about, I will order this as soon as we get off the phone, this connection. I will be ordering that book because clearly you seem to think that I need to say yes more often. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. I'd like to share with you at home my main takeaway from this interview and from the short time that I've known Vaibhav. Number one, do not simply exist, live. Live a life with no regrets. And if you feel alone or discouraged and you don't see the point of going on with life, seek help. Seek help. And there is light. There is light outside of your dark tank and your current circumstances. And third, push out from your comfort zone. Do things that make you uncomfortable so that you can grow and just discover, see what will be waiting on the other side. And finally, the last one, say yes to opportunities that serve you. Say yes more often. Open up to whatever the world can offer you. And is
where you end up.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else, a final story, a final thing you'd like to share with us, Vaibhav?
All I will say is fear nothing, regret nothing, live for everything. Don't approach anything with fear, approach it with courage, and see what can happen.
Yes, I'm good with that. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I appreciate it.
It's been such a pleasure. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that getting to know Vaibhav has inspired you to step out from your comfort zone and live your fullest life. And I will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. See you in the next video. Bye.
Bye. You can edit that out.
No, come on. That's going to give us some character.
That's fine. Keep it if you want. That's fine.
It's okay. I'll take it out.
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Vaibhav Vadera, and you can check out my website, havemorecourage.com. Yes. Sorry, I thought I had the .co.uk. Take that, edit that second bit out. He said that he spoke to let's restart this. Let's restart that.
Good, my daughter's leaving. You want to see my daughter?
Oh, hey, sure.
That's Vaibhav.
Hello. How are you? Good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
This is going to stay. Is this making the cut as well? Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. So you're gonna go skiing or what? Okay. I figured since you were interrupting it, we might as well. Sorry, did I mess with your flow?
No. I had to.
So good. All right. Goodness, this is really not a funny subject. So I need to. Oh.
I know.
Okay, so speaking of life and death right now,